Alabama is a 21-point favorite. The total is 50.5. Alabama currently leads the all-time series 13-3, including 8-1 in Tuscaloosa. This is the first meeting between the two teams since 2019 and the first meeting in Tuscaloosa since 2009. I was the quarterback in that game. I didn't play very well. We won the game, but it was not because of me. That was actually Mark Ingram's coming out party when he ran for like 250. So really, really fun to see a Heisman moment there, even though it came at my expense. Let's start with question number one. How does Alabama respond to the adversity from last week? Alabama has not had consecutive games that they lost in the regular season since 2007. Okay, that is 205 games between losing streaks. That's the second longest span in the AP poll era. The only one better was Oklahoma from 1999 through 2020, which is pretty wild, by the way. 256 games consecutively without losing two in a row. Now, Alabama has been really good in the regular season following a loss since 2008. They are 11-0. It's amazing that there's only 11 regular season losses since 2008 is one big takeaway. The other one is that they're winning these games convincingly by an average of about 23 points per game. So it's the best record and the best points per game differential in the regular season following a loss during that span amongst anybody. But the question is, was last week more about Vanderbilt or was it about Alabama's ineptitudes? And I don't know if I know the answer to that. I know that Vanderbilt was great last week, but was that because Alabama has struggles on defense? We'll find out. I do think Alabama's got a lot of room to grow on that side of the ball, and they are now being tested in the court of public opinion for the very first time. It's easy to fall victim after the rat poison. Everyone tells you how great you are, but now everyone tells you how much you stink. How do you respond? We'll find out the state of the program this weekend. Number two, can South Carolina sustain drives like Vandy did? Can they pound the football? Can they dominate time of possession? One reason why Vanderbilt pulled off the upset last week is because Alabama had under 18 minutes time of possession. That's their lowest in any game in the last 25 years. So it's insane to think just how long Vandy possessed the ball. They also continued to keep their offense on the field by stringing together third down conversions and one fourth down conversion. So in gotta have it scenarios on third and fourth down, they were 13 of 19. That's the most third down conversions allowed by Alabama in the last 25 years. I think South Carolina's going to try to replicate that plan. But the problem is they haven't been very good on third down this year. Just 30% of third downs converted for the Gamecocks offense. That's the second worst in the SEC. Let's go to question three. Can South Carolina's defensive line impact the game? We have seen Alabama's offensive line earlier in the year against South Florida kind of struggle. But that was before they figured out the right recipe, which five guys to have on the field. They now have everyone back at full strength, and while the right tackle has had some ups and downs, the offensive line has not really been a huge problem this season, at least the last few weeks. But here's probably the most disruptive defensive ends they've faced this year in obvious passing situations. Dylan Stewart, the true freshman who's a superstar, and Kyle Kennard, the transfer from Georgia Tech. Those guys have been amazing on the ends of the lines of scrimmage. Can Alabama contain them? And frankly, can they avoid the obvious third and long situation where those guys are breathing fire off the edge? The way you do that is by pounding the football. I would expect a heavy dose of Alabama's run game running straight at those defensive ends with not just Jalen Milroe, but also with the running backs. And then question four, can Alabama limit the run game? South Carolina is a run-heavy team. They average 46 carries this year per game. That's the second most in the SEC, but they're not super efficient running the football. Just 4 yards per carry. That's 12th in the SEC. Just 2.2 yards after first contact. That's last in the SEC. And 28% of their rush attempts have gone for 0 or negative yards. That's 15th out of 16th in the SEC. Lenora Sellers, he runs it a lot. 14 carries a game. That's the sixth most in the FBS and the second most in the SEC behind Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, who of course had his way with the Tide defense last week. Couple trends in the game. Alabama's 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 home games, And South Carolina is 4-1 against the spread against AP top 10 teams under Shane Beamer. I'll take the Tide in a bounce back performance, mainly on defense. I would expect Alabama to stop the run. I think they'll do a good job in coverage against what I think is an underwhelming wide receiver core, and they get back on track with a nice offensive performance. I think it might look a little bit like Ole Miss's performance last week when they beat South Carolina convincingly, mainly because of how well their defense played.